educational system does not teach our young people what they owe and what this country is all about, and how the World War II veterans have changed the world. World War II was the greatest world event to ever take place. And just for instance, on D-Day, 5,000 ships out in that ocean, when the Germans looked out in the daylight, began to cast its light on the ocean, and they could all of a sudden, through the fog, start seeing the ship after ship after ship. And just imagine 5,000 ships out there in front of you. It's an awesome sight. Nothing like that ever happened before, and will never happen again. I've got a little less than 2,000 jumps. I started jumping in 1960. It was something I always wanted to do because some of the guys in my neighborhood were paratroopers and had listened to their stories and so forth. So I just had to be a paratrooper. I went into Special Forces, and that is naturally a part of Special Forces training is parachuting, and I've never regretted it.
I joined the team in 2002 and was living in England at the time, and I traveled from England to America every 90 days to take part in events with the team. And during the course of those visits to Oklahoma, I met an Oklahoma girl and we got married, and I now live in Tulsa.
It's pride, prestige in esprit de corps. Because a lot of people have that mindset, hey, you're 81 years old. What the hell are you doing this for? You don't have to. You know, you must be crazy. But it's being a team member. And there's a lot to be said about belonging to a team. I still say the best way to get by in life is have a positive attitude. Because if you have a shitty attitude, it's only going to make things worse.
Student managers call out to see who's not here. Let's start with the first lift, first stick.
There's an old friend of mine. He said, sir, he said, how long has it been since you jumped out of a military aircraft with a military parachute? And I said, oh man, I said, probably about 18 years. And he said, how would you like to do it again? And I said, are you crazy? I'd hurt myself. And he says, well, he says, I'm about 5 years older than you are, and I'm doing it tonight. He says, do you want to do it or not?
Yeah, this was a training base. Approximately 7,000 pilots were trained here, and it's incredible to believe that in 1941, December the 7th, when Pearl Harbor was bombed, this base didn't even exist. And less than a year later, they're doing flight training here, and there's a complete base with about 450 buildings here. So in a very short period of time, they actually came in and built a complete self-contained air base. We've been flying this aircraft for 13 years. And there's approximately 9,000 jumps that's been made out of the aircraft. This particular airplane is an aircraft that was built in Oklahoma in November 1942. Boogie Baby is a name that I named it, and it's just kind of a name that kind of stuck with me, and so we actually chose to name the aircraft Boogie Baby.
Each volunteer usually donates in several ways, not only his time, but money, and then we work and do events and so forth to earn money. Donations naturally are accepted from outside the organization as well. Well, it costs us around $1,000 an hour, maybe a little more.
I've been with this organization about 4 years, and I became the commander of this organization about 2.5 years ago. And unfortunately, during that time period, I was also deployed to Iraq for 10 months, but came back and picked up the baton and ran with it again.
Every time that you go out the door, you are putting your life at risk. It is a dangerous sport, if you want to call it a sport. What we do is dangerous. We're not play acting, we're not reenacting in the way that a lot of reenactors do. We do it for real, and you're putting your life at risk.
I always say, if you ever get to the point, during your jumping career, to where you're not a little bit afraid of what you're doing, you need to stop. So there's always just a little bit of fear, as you approach that door and you step out that door. But you've also got a great deal of faith and confidence.
Smile, Sharon. For Pete's sake, we're having fun.
The military has found that jumping from an aircraft while in flight is like being in combat and having bullets shot at you. It gets the adrenaline flowing, and it does a lot of things for you. So it's kind of like a baptism of fire each time you go out the door.
I personally have never had a single injury of any kind. In the whole 126 jumps that I've made, not one. And we can't afford to have people getting hurt. everybody has to go to work on Monday. And so therefore we can't afford to have people getting hurt, and neither can they. And that's why we give them the highest standards of training to make sure if they follow it, they will be able to execute a safe jump.
The first time I saw it, I was on a training back on the Chesapeake Bay area.
We're like a big family once you become part of our organization, and jumping out of an airplane is a life-changing experience.
Harrington.
Ho!
Hugh.
Here!
Boyle. Cutting. Yo. Steely.
Here!
Anderson. All right, we're good.
All right, load them up! We're gonna have to do.
What makes me want to do it is I studied history at university and got involved in a lot of the information that I understood, and then embraced trying to find a way of giving something back. And when I discovered the team, this was my way of giving something back, and I've never regretted it.
You'll find that I've been out 34 years. And statistically, they say that veterans live for 5 years after they get out. I beat the rep.
Kind of keeps you young. It's one of those things where you've got a group of people that comes together, men and women, and we celebrate the opportunity to remember, honor, and serve the World War II veterans.
It's a living museum here. I mean, if you come here during jump schools and our big events, it's like stepping back in time. Everybody's in uniform. We're all doing jobs like they did in World War II. We've got aircraft flying out there and dropping people. We've got people around here training military techniques and so forth. They took on the world and liberated countries all over the world, both sides of the world, all around the world. Gave their blood, gave their sweat and their tears. They did the most awesome thing that this country, that this world has ever known. This is their legacy.